Yeah, I feel I'm too busy. I thought after leaving government, I would be in semi-retirement and would have enjoyed much more free time. But somehow I'm still very busy. And that's the reason why when the gentleman invited me to attend the event in Shanghai, I replied immediately to him that I was not able to because there are too many commitments. But one day, because I've been going to the Vatican every month for meetings, so one day after going through quite a torture, transiting through and arriving, I went to have lunch. And there's this nun from India, from Kerala, Malayali nun. So she said, "How are you?" Because every time I see her, we will hug each other. I said, "I'm very busy." He said, "Did you look at me?" She said, "Busy is good." So suddenly, I felt happy. If busy is good, then I'm good. It's not a bad thing to be busy. Many people, when they grow older, they have a lot of time. They're waiting for people to contact them, waiting for people to ask them to do things. A good friend of mine said, the worst thing about growing old is to feel that you're no longer of use. I thought that's such an important insight, you know. So to be busy is good. And we should not be too concerned about asking older people to do things for us. In fact, they're happier. They're happier. So busy is good. When Stanford Raffles came to Singapore in 1819, before that he was in Java. Because when Napoleon conquered Holland, the British occupied Java. So he was in Java for 5 years. And when he was in Java, he noticed that in every town there were Arabs. And the Arabs were the one doing business. So when he came to Singapore, he said, I must get an Arab family to come. So there's an Arab family in Palembang. And he found someone called Syed Omar Al-Junid to come. And that's why we are Al-Junid GLC. That's why Omar Mosque is the first mosque in Singapore. Yeah. Why were the Arabs so successful? Because they had people all over Southeast Asia, all the way to Yemen. They're like an intranet, you see. So they know what's happening. It could be batik, it could be spices, it could be food. Every time there's a margin, they acted. Whenever there is a new flow, markets change. And they have relatives and friends. See. Syed Hamid, the Malaysian foreign minister, he's a Hadrami, he's from that community. So he tells me that every time he goes to Java, he goes to Indonesia, he stays with relatives. See? And when you stay with relatives, immediately you know, oh, these are the conditions. So when we look at一带一路, we say, okay, if China invests in Java, if in Java now there will be East-West Highway, and maybe fast train, if there are more power stations, and the cities are growing, shopping centers are growing. And we know the Indonesians all come to Singapore for education, for medical treatment. And everything they see at Orchard Road, they want to have in Jakarta and Surabaya and Medan and so on. So I'm not in your business, so I do not know. But if I were in your business, I would say, study the trends. You see? Study, what do they do? What are they interested in? What am I good at? Do I understand Indonesia? Do I understand China? If I understand both, I have an advantage. See? So it's to be alert, to know how the trends may change, how the margins may move, and then to decide whether you're going in or you're moving out. Certain things you may have to move out. Certain things you may move in. We know throughout Asia, education, healthcare, entertainment, tourism, they're all going up. Consumption. Initially, people become wealthy, so they want to show off. You see? Big diamonds, expensive watches, designer shoes, handbags. They want the famous brands. So you go to any shopping center, the same famous brands. But it's changing now. In China, it's changing. People are beginning to say, no, it's not the label. It is a quality. Is it really good quality? So you have other brands like Charles & Keith. Good design, good quality, cheaper. And people begin to shop not just for the brand, but for quality and for taste. You see? The Japanese are very good at that. You go to Japan, you go to the restaurant, colors, design, proportion, very fine, see, because they have long experience in this. And in Southeast Asia now, the patterns are changing. People are becoming wealthier, middle classes are growing, more sophisticated. They want to look after their health. They are more concerned about style. They want to be international. So all this you have to take into account. And some trends are global, some are local. Last week, I gave a dinner to a CEO of one of the top mass fashion companies in the world, because we do their logistics. So we had dinner in my apartment. And he told me, he said, fashion is global. I said, what do you mean fashion is global? I said, in China, they like red. You're always having black stuff in your shops. He says, no. He says, yes, in China, we have more red stuff. And in China, they like more lace. So we make some adjustments. But the moment there is a fashion trend, he says it's global. I was very surprised to hear this, I thought fashion is very local. And this is because of communication, the internet. Everybody looks at the similar websites, they travel, they copy one another, so there is a global trend. So whatever business we are in, we've got to know what are the global trends and what are the local adaptations. So if you do not know the local adaptations, that in Chinese New Year you can't have black, you must have red, then you'll be in trouble. So I can talk about logistics, but I can't talk about jewelry. I think why Raffles chose Singapore and why the big change came when Singapore became a station for the East India Company. The East India Company from Madras, Calcutta, Penang, Singapore, Xianggang, Shanghai. Raffles put Singapore onto the trading internet. Connection. To connect on the internet, you need TCP/IP, you need a certain protocol. What was the protocol of the East India Company? Protection of property, enforcement of contract, accounting standards, property rights. Openness. So he brought in Arabs, Chinese, Buginese, Sindhis, Jews, Parsis. They all came here. It's the same today. Have an open attitude, welcome people, rule of law, protect property, law and order. So to me, 1819 was a very important event. The next important event is the events leading to the Second World War. Let me talk about the Chinese people. They came here in the 19th century, in the early 20th century, from South China. They wanted to go home. Many never went home. Their children became Malayans. When Sun Zhongshan came here, they supported him. When the Japanese invaded China, they supported China against the Japanese. So when the Japanese conquered Singapore, they slaughtered many people. Partly in revenge, partly because they know that Singapore is a hotbed for Chinese nationalism. So that whole period leading to the reform of the Chinese schools, anti-yellow culture, equality of the sexes, it's a very critical period in Singapore history. All the way to Nanta, the Chinese middle school, the traditions which continue in the SAP schools. That's a very important period in our history. Then, 59 and 63. Internal self-government, independence, the creation of a nation state. So to me, these are the three critical events. Raffles, nationalism, I describe it for the Chinese, but you can also talk about the Indian, Malay nationalism, and how in 59, 63, the nationalisms became Singapore nationalism. So this would be, to me, that all Singaporeans must know, in my mind, all young Singaporeans must know these three critical periods in our history.